What's going on, party people? Cheesecake the Soundboy is back, and today I have a video about Julie Leah, captain of the controversial Krewe of Nyx, and the various allegations and surprising investigations that surround her. Every year, in the days leading up to Ash Wednesday, the city of New Orleans is host to a series of colorful and festive parades in a celebration known as Mardi Gras. It's a chance to get out those hedonistic ambitions before the time of solace and fasting known to the majority Catholic population as Lent. These parades have a long and varied history, from the hackneyed political satire of Le Coup d'Etat to the festive faux monarchism of Rex. However, none of these have acquired quite the same level of controversy as the mystic Krewe of Nyx. At one point, the largest all-female group and one of the largest parades overall, membership tanked after a long buildup of internal grievances that brought about a mass exodus. This year, the parade rolled with a markedly smaller ridership, with the community at large turning their backs on the controversial parade led by President for Life, Julie Leah. This seems to be the latest in a long string of public allegations against Julie, as complaints paint a picture of a boss babe dictator, comfortable with shirking responsibility and dodging accountability by either shielding herself from scrutiny or removing those whom oppose her. Founded in 2011, Nyx got City Council approval just in time to be able to roll for the 2012 Carnival season with 534 members. Within just a few years, membership boomed, swelling to over 3,000 riders annually from 2018 to 2020. It's not hard to see why, as other crews in the city had limited slots available, if they even allowed women at all. This led to a remarkable amount of money flowing around, with a stated yearly due amount of $650. Ostensibly a non-profit organization, Nyx was bringing in millions a year, and that's just in dues. However, this explosive growth fell upon possibly the wildest management structure of any parade group I've ever heard of. Shortly after formation, Julie took a page out of the Kim Jong playbook, allegedly making herself president for life and giving herself unilateral decision-making power, having crew members serve at her behest. She is alleged to be able to purge members from the crew for any reason, and is also alleged to have ousted several executive board members whom opposed these policies before replacing them with a farce election. Wielding this unilateral power, Julie is alleged to have used her crew funds to live lavishly, including renting a second home in an upscale part of the New Orleans suburbs, buying several expensive meals, and even a beach vacation. These charges are spelled out in a local investigative report from 2017 by Lee Zurich and the team at Fox 8 News, and is also mentioned in the currently pending class action lawsuit being filed by former crew members. The most disgusting allegation to me is the siphoning of fundraiser money intended for a crew member whose house burned down right before Thanksgiving, and she made that crew member pay the dues to ride for the next year. It's just fucking bonkers to me. When Nyx coffers started frothing over with revenue, Julie decided to skim a little off the top to build her own corruption cashachino. She is alleged to have siphoned cash tips intended for float and bus drivers in addition to crew merchandise, like branded beads, doubloons, posters, and other usually complimentary items, were to be paid for in cash. City-mandated safety harnesses were required to be purchased from her husband's company at an inflated rate in cash. Spots on the big purse float, the flagship of the parade, were raffled off for tickets ranging from $100 to $200 in cash. Very few of these transactions seem to have been reported to the IRS. But Julie Leah's abuse of power doesn't end there. According to a report from NOLA.com, while working for the New Orleans Police Department, Julie Leah was a lieutenant in the Internal Affairs Division. It's alleged that before she left for her job at Delgado, which we'll get to in a minute, Julie Leah left a few cases completely open before taking a planned sick leave before retiring. She also had a subordinate that left 18 cases open over the course of 2 years. Now, when she gets to Delgado to be the police chief, it doesn't stop there for Julie. In 2019, she was fired from Delgado's police department for improperly assigning 2 DCCPD officers to watch someone's property away from school grounds while they were on the clock, leaving the school's police force short-staffed and using state resources for private affairs. However, since she was sipping from her heavy cream cashachino, this doesn't seem to have had a profound effect on Julie. In 2020, during the last Mardi Gras celebration before before COVID ravaged our country, a tragic accident befell the troubled crew. Geraldine Carmouche, a 58-year-old resident of a northern Louisiana city, was run over by the second half of a tandem float shortly after the beginning of the Krewe of Nyx parade. Let me be clear here. This was an accident by definition. Nothing about the internal politics or leadership of Julie Leah led to this fatality. The part where I do levy my criticism is how the aftermath was handled by life coach Julie. The city rerouted the remainder of the parade back to their initial staging area, far away from where the riders were expecting to end up at the end of the night. I agree with this decision, as the scene needed to be thoroughly investigated by authorities in order to establish culpability for the accident. According to a former rider that asked to remain anonymous, Julie's handling of the fallout was less than stellar. Isolating herself within her limousine, she provided no direction or leadership to the traumatized and beleaguered riders. Float captains, mid-level officers that one would think would be on the floats themselves, were apparently in no position to provide leadership, as they were all on a float further up the route, unable to help coordinate the change of plans. Riders that were marooned at the staging area had no guidance at all as to what they were going to do with the hundreds of dollars of merchandise that they had paid exorbitantly to load onto the floats, or even how to get home. Float drivers that were behind the accident were refused payment for not completing the route, despite being caught up in the hours-long ordeal. Many riders were forced to having to pay inflated Uber fares in order to make it back to their homes or hotel rooms, and had to wait for the slow trickle of vehicles as access to the staging area was limited. In a Zoom conference afterwards, Julie is alleged to have chided crew members who were displeased with her lack of leadership during the fallout, as she needed time to emotionally process the events that transpired. So everything mentioned previously was before the summer of 2020, where things start to come to a head. You see, around June 1st, in the wake of the BLM protests, the official Krewe of Nyx Instagram placed this picture with the caption reading, "Our souls are the same color," and the poster adding the hashtag All Lives Matter. After receiving understandable backlash for this, she issued an apology lamenting her lack of knowledge as to how this was offensive in an ostensibly inclusive crew of people who were from a variety of races and backgrounds, though apparently not inclusive of trans people. Go figure. After the public apology, members of the crew wished for the Krewe of Nyx Instagram account to make a post containing the hashtag Black Lives Matter. I don't think this is an unreasonable request in the wake of many other corporations and nonprofit organizations putting out similar messaging to show solidarity with the movement for criminal justice reform. When this was refused by Captain Julie Leah, members requested a refund of their first installment of dues for the next year. However you feel about her past or her politics, it shouldn't be unreasonable to expect that some people wanted to distance themselves from the crew, especially after the disastrous handling of the fatality incident last year and the crew in general by Julie up to that point. While this was initially stated to not be an issue by Julie Leah over a Zoom conference, she later went back on her promise. This is what led to the class action moving forward in 2021. However, this isn't the only reason that Julie will be attending court in New Orleans. It also seems that she decided to allegedly screw over the float builders as well. According to a lawsuit filed in September of 2020, while New Orleans was considering holding a Mardi Gras for the next year in 2021, Nyx had breached the long-standing informal contract with a group known as PFJ Float Builders to design and build their floats. The case is still ongoing, but it is alleged by PFJ that part of the reason for this was an unwillingness to aid in the cover-up of Julie's monetary indiscretions regarding driver's tips and the dramatic loss of ridership over the social media indiscretions of Julie, leading to a loss in profit and opportunity for PFJ Float Builders. However, my personal favorite is the chuckle I got from seeing Julie's website, with the gem of a quote, "I think finding the perfect purse and the perfect pair of fake eyelashes is life-altering for any woman," and her podcast where she gives advice on personal growth and how to maximize your MLM business. If there are people out there considering joining up with the Krewe of Nyx, then they deserve to know all the allegations surrounding the controversial figure before spending their hard-earned dollars on the Mardi Gras experience. If you or someone you know is interested in joining a Mardi Gras crew, or an all-female crew in particular, I'd like to recommend the Krewe of Nyx, the Mystical Order of the Phoenix, and the Krewe of Harmonia, all made up by members who have left the Nyx group. Anyway, thank you for spending time with me as I go through this laundry list of shittiness, and I hope to see you again. Cheesecake out.